Hey, what is up guys, JTX here. This is going to be the day one recap of how the Bleedbow Slayer has done. I'll quickly talk about my experiences with the league start on the new Ascendancy, as well as the actual league itself. I've made some adjustments to the build as I was progressing through the campaign, as well as into early maps, into yellow and reds. There's also an option to actually play this build as a Gladiator while league starting early on. Gladiator has three ascendancies that are really powerful with the bleed pops, the aggravated bleeds, and enemies taking more damage the longer you stay near them. Those are really good ascendancies early on as well. I believe it's still viable to play it as a Gladiator for league start, but I believe the endgame version should be Slayer because endurance charge stacking and frenzy charge stacking goes way too hard with the Valikesh and the lesser tech. I also have a POB in the description if you wanted to follow along as a Gladiator, and then eventually you'd swap to a Slayer after you acquire your gear. If you're interested in seeing someone playing this version of the build, you can check out Cutedog. He's playing the Gladiator version of the Bleedbow build.
Yo, that J guy, guys, go shout that J guy. He's a cool dude. He's a really cool dude, man. My chiga, dude. My Chinese brother. Actually, I don't know if he's Chinese.
Huge shout out to him. I think he watched one of my videos and took some inspiration from there. I think it can be fine as a Gladiator, just personally. You can also do it as a Slayer as well, as I have here. The main difference is the 5% to 20% bleed difference between Hemophilia and the actual Ascendancy. 5% has felt fine for me so far. I'm sure 20% probably feels a lot better. I think running it as a Slayer has been fine. Up to you guys to feel it out for yourselves and give both a try. Generally, the build sticks to the POB I provided initially. There's only a few tweaks to it. I'll go over them here. There is a reservation node here called Leader of the Pact, and another reservation efficiency node here. Grabbing these in conjunction with your reservation mastery here and champion of the cause lets you very easily run Pride, Determination, and Herald of Purity pretty much straight away when you get into maps. This is important because we're running a molten shell setup, so we want to stack as much armor as possible. And you'll notice a big difference after you start running both the guard skill and determination. Also on the dream, you can notice that I've spec'd down into here for the disciple of the unyielding. This is because we have masterful form. So right now we have 6 endurance and 6 frenzy charges. I've yet to anoint my 7th one on frenetic, and I can also get a couple more on gear. But these two nodes are ridiculously good value for Slayer because we double dip into both frenzy and endurance charges. I'll go over my character right now. My character is now level 86. Glad died for Slayer. As you know, we're no longer going Glad Bleedbow, we're going Slayer Bleedbow. This is the current gear I have. I picked up Hemophilia as soon as I could in the campaign. I think it was around Act 4 or 5. I could nab these up. I bought an early pair for like, I think 3 or 4 chaos. These are really cheap at the moment, and I think they'll be cheap for the rest of the league. If you can, try look for one with a corruption on it. Ideally +1 max frenzy or curse enemies with vulnerability on hit. Obviously that's a big luxury, but that's just something if you want to upgrade your gloves even further. I was using this bow until literally a few hours before day 2 started. Just generic fizz bow. Try find one on the market. Ideally a Citadel base. I believe this is a 550 fizz DPS base. I made this one yesterday night. I just bought a fractured, I believe it's tier 4 hybrid, and I put a Essence of Contempt on it, and then I crafted increased fizz. So this is a little bit better than this current bow, and pretty cheap to craft. Just keep an eye out for fractured fizz bows coming up on the market over the next few days. Doesn't have to be a Citadel bow, but ideally something with a high top end damage. So you notice that my physical damage on this bow is 236 to 717. The number we're looking for is the 717. We want that second number to be as high as possible so we can fish for those high bleed rolls. Other gear is pretty generic, just some suppress life on resistance on helmet. A lot of resistance on this ring. Actually found this ring during the acts and I was like confused of why it had that much life, and I forgot they changed that life modifiers to go all the way up to 114 on rings. So this was really nice to pick up during the acts. Chest, generic 6 link I picked up, slap a essence of greed on it, and then hopefully you get a resist, craft your own. This ring, really good early on. Mark of Submission allows you to curse enemies with socketed Hex Curse Gem, so in this case Vulnerability. The quality of Vulnerability is actually really nice because it gives a chance to aggravate bleeding on enemies up to 10% at max quality. This is one of the sources that we can actually aggravate our bleeds from early on, and in conjunction with our tree here, 10%, we're getting a 20% chance to aggravate bleeds on hit, and then that aggravate is guaranteed after 4 seconds if we don't aggravate within the first 4 seconds. Later on, you can either grab it through a Forbidden Flame Forbidden Flesh combo by taking it from Gladiator, or you can get it as a glove implicit on Eldritch mods on your gloves. It goes up to 30% at the highest tier. I think at that point, around 30 to 40% is a really good amount already. Just having a 20 to 30% early on really helps because we also have a Frenzy Manaforged setup that also triggers the aggravate for us. So this is actually on a MAME and Lifetap support. So as you see, even while we're channeling our puncture, our frenzy is shooting out towards targets. It gives us frenzy charges as well as giving us a chance to aggravate bleeds on the target after we shoot our puncture. Then we follow up with split arrow to keep applying stacks. And then if we don't get aggravate on either one of those, it'll kick in by itself after the 4 seconds. Rest of the gear is pretty generic, just a fat amount of resistance and life on the belt. This quiver was pretty nice. Managed to pick it up pretty cheap early on. You can use the Path of Building search function to search for gear that gives you like the highest DPS boost, and this is how I found this quiver. Just try to look for something with life, physical damage, attack speed potentially as well. Anything that your build needs to fill out, even potentially resists or stats. Use it as a flexible choice on what your build needs. And then the boots suppress movement speed, life. I really like the changes that life can roll up to 100 plus on pretty much all pieces of gear now. So you notice like our pool sitting at 4.9k, and this is like pretty like this is literally day one gear. You could probably push it a lot higher than this. As for the skill links, everything's still relatively the same. The only difference is we're using Lifetap on our frenzy, so we trigger it more consistently. Our puncture is still on a 4 link at the moment, hoping we can get this bow 6 linked so we can have a 6 link puncture setup. Split arrows still on the generic links for volatility, brutality, cruelty, chain, and vicious proj. Make sure you get quality on some of these gems, particularly puncture. Puncture's quality gives 1% more bleeding damage per quality, so if you get 20% quality, it's 20% more damage. Also, a snipe. If you get 20% quality, it gives you an additional stage. Both of these are really good upgrades if you want to boost your single target damage. Haven't really had the need to yet, but I have a feeling that as I get into tier 16, 15 maps, I might need a bit more single target. We'll see how we go. So far, I've been doing tier 13s, 14s. Hasn't been too hard. Probably seeing Tujin here has a couple shipments for me. I don't know what the shipments are. I just sent them out last night. Hopefully we get something good. So this is going to be a live reaction to the lead mechanic. So let's see what we got from Tujin.
Local.
Okay, yeah. So this is a I remember this one. This was the smaller voyage with less value. So we'll take that. Not the greatest. This is the long one. So this is the one all the way to Calgo. Let's see what we got. Okay, couple of runes. 1 Chaos Orb, and some other bubblegum currency. Alright, so yeah, it's okay. Probably you can get better shipments later on. This is kind of what I expect for the mechanic until at least, I don't know if they change it and make it better later on. I think this was a 150k shipment. So, but yeah, I'm not sure how the value actually scales. Early on, I did get a pretty good drop from the shipments. It gave me my lane's fallacy that all the poison builds want. So I saw that for 40C early on. I was able to snipe a cheap divine, which I was able to roll into some gear. Atlas progression so far, I'm at 61 maps. Hoping to finish off the rest of the Atlas today. So this is usually the start of day 2 as I'm recording this. League start's been pretty good so far. Build's been holding up pretty well. I'd say the only major difference to the actual build is instead of taking Masterful Form early on, I grabbed Headsman during the leveling process, though acts all the way into early maps, just so I could have that extra call until I had enough points to actually grab Masterful Form. So I believe it might be a little bit better with how the changes work with using gold, and you can use gold to respec, you can use regrets as normal to respec. So it gives you a couple more options if you want to play around with your Ascendancy. If you are still leveling, I probably recommend grabbing Headsman over Masterful Form while at least you're into like early maps, let's say white, yellow maps. When you get to red maps and you start getting your frenzy charges online and you get more passive points in your tree, then I recommend swapping to Masterful Form. It's an amazing notable at the moment with how endurance charges work and how they reduce the damage you take from both physical and elemental damage. Major upgrades for the build coming up. I don't know if I'm going to be going for a Rislathas. I think every single melee build and their friend wants to grab that belt. That belt probably is going to be a little bit pricey this league. I think the better option is to actually just farm up for the Ralakesh Alessa combo. Because I believe Alessas are very cheap because they're a very common drop from Maven each league. Not liking the price of Ralakeshes at the moment though. We'll see how high they go before I think eventually their price will even out. If you have any questions about the build, feel free to leave a comment and I'll try to respond to as many of them as I can. Hope you guys are having a good league start. I'll link my POB of the day 1 gear and the day 1 tree down below so you guys have a reference. Hope you guys had a good league start and I'll catch you guys in the next video.